It might be the international break, but that doesn't mean that we are switching off from FPL, because we of course have some big news still to talk about with injury updates like Cole Palmer and my own transfer plans with 3 free transfers. It might be time to sell GYOKERES and bring in another Arsenal midfielder. So as always, if you look forward to today's video, make sure to drop a like and of course hit that subscribe button. Enough waffling, let's get to today's video. Now first up, a quick recap on how game week 7 went. It feels a lifetime ago, I'm going to be honest with you, but it was a decent game week. 73 points and a green arrow to 1.3 million in the world. I'm going to be honest, it's been slow, steady progress. I'm quite enjoying these game weeks of just a few incremental green arrows along the way. It looks great as well, really. So I'm delighted with the game week. Of course, I wildcarded in game week 6, so we're kind of off the back of that right now. Rolled the transfer in game week 7. And as I mentioned, put myself in a position where I do have 3 free transfers available in game week 8. But even though I wildcarded in game week 6 and my team should just look great long term, I feel like there are already cracks starting to show in my team. So for game week 7, basically double Arsenal defence, fantastic with that clean sheet. And of course, Gabriel being defensive contributions alongside attack and returns, he feels like the best all-rounder pick right now in that defence. Semenyo, of course, with that 18-pointer. So happy to have him in a wildcard because it's been pain not having him beforehand. And I do think he is just a great long-term pick. Bournemouth look good. He looks like the talisman of that team. And we still need to understand whether he's definitely on penalties or not. Because if he is, I just think he becomes essential. I'm going to be honest with you. I think he just becomes essential in this game. And die with that 7-pointer and could have been so much more if Beto managed to just get his header in for the winner rather than Ndai setting up Beto, who then set up Grealish with his deflected shot. So happy with Ndai for that game week, but one maybe on the chopping block later on. And then of course Erling Haaland delivering, as he always does, the captaincy returns. Now I mentioned about how there could be some cracks starting to appear already. Bruno Fernandes was in for those few game weeks, hasn't really impressed me, I'm going to be honest with you. And now we come into a bit of a trickier time with the fixtures coming up. So Bruno Fernandes, a bit of a question mark. GYOKERES, have I gone for the wrong Arsenal player? And double Everton, not really delivering what I was expecting. Even though game week 7 was good, I'm looking at the upcoming fixtures thinking, is it actually worth owning those? So 73 points. Good game week. Let me know how you got on in the comment section. Let's now take a look at game week 8 and beyond. So if we take a look at my current game week 8 team, as I said, I'm in a good position right now with 3 free transfers and 0.8 million in the bank. Sometimes when you have all this flexibility, it's very difficult to be very, very narrow-minded and think, what do I actually need to do rather than just go, you know what, I've got loads of transfers, let's just make loads of moves for the sake of making moves. I would love to get myself into a position where I've got 5 free transfers, but as I said, there are cracks started to appear, so I need to understand whether they need to be addressed in this game week in isolation. So looking at the team selection for game week 8 right now, double Arsenal defence, I am more than happy with that. I do think quietly Fulham are in a position where they could go on a bit of a bad run. I'm looking at their team right now and I think it's fine. Always back Silva to do well, but I think that's a good game week for Arsenal, especially from a defensive ownership perspective. So even though I've got Dubravka at home against Leeds, there's just no world that I'm not going for my double Arsenal defence. Rodon away against Burnley. I mean, the alternatives are Anderson at home against Arsenal and Tarkowski away against Man City. So my hand is kind of forced in this particular game week. And then Senesi away against Crystal Palace. Not ideal at all. So I'm kind of hoping for defensive contributions from both Senesi and Rodon. And then the clean sheets to come from the double Arsenal defence. Now, in terms of the midfielders, Semenyo's fixture isn't great against Palace at all, but am I selling him? Of course not. Reinders at home against Everton, a player that I am looking at thinking maybe there will be other opportunities to be a bit different, but anyone that's watched Reinders from an eye test perspective, he could have had returns, honestly, in some of the blanks that he's had. So I wouldn't be panicking about Reinders right now. This is a perfect game just to keep him, back him, and then hopefully he will deliver what others might be actually losing faith in him. SAKA away against Burnley, not ideal at all. I could easily bring in Ndai away against Man City if I feel Man City are still a little bit suspect defensively, which I do think is the case. But SAKA away against Burnley, he is currently in, not ideal. And then, of course, we've got Bruno Fernandes away against Liverpool, which, again, not a great position to be in. But are Liverpool in a place where they are conceding opportunities and Man United is still an unpredictable beast? Yes, that is the case. Liverpool could bop them 5-0. Man United might win 2-1. I literally don't know what the outcome might be in that game. So that one comes down to, is there anybody in game week 8 that I'm desperate to buy? And then the front three, GYOKERES away against Fulham, João Pedro away against Forest, and Haaland at home against Everton. João Pedro and Haaland I am more than happy with. I have my concerns about João Pedro playing as a number 9 in this Chelsea team, but while Cole Palmer, if you haven't seen the news, is still out for a numerous amount of weeks, I'm not expecting him to be back until game week 10. That means João Pedro's minutes are still pretty much locked in. So those two are good and Forest are terrible right now. But of course, GYOKERES is understanding whether he is actually the right pick. Now, everybody's panicking right now, saying, I got to get SAKA because he took the penalty in game week 7. But the quotes that have come out afterwards from both Arteta and SAKA suggest there's still uncertainty who is going to be the penalty taker. So if you're selling GYOKERES with the assumption of just saying, I want the penalty taker and that is going to be SAKA, you might not actually get that situation arise in game week 8. And I spoke about how in game week 8, and I'm going to put the fixtures up now, it's a difficult game week. I don't think there are standout fixtures, really. Chelsea away against Forest is good, but outside of João Pedro, I don't feel confident investing in any other Chelsea player. Brighton-Newcastle feels like a game that could be avoided. Personally, I don't really know what way that fixture will go. Burnley-Leeds, I already have my coverage, if you want to call it coverage. Palace-Bournemouth, once again, I don't feel inclined to invest any more than what I have in that fixture. City-Everton, again, what Man City do you have outside of my two? I don't think there is any. Sunderland-Wolves, I'm not touching that game at all. Fulham-Arsenal, I don't think Fulham are in a good place right now, but does that mean that I want to invest in Fulham or invest in more Arsenal? I think the answer is no. When I look at my Arsenal investment, what I could do very easily is shift out GYOKERES to a Jared Bowen and then go for Bruno Fernandes to SAKA and have my complete Arsenal set. But do I think it is worth it this week? Probably not. Yes, West Ham are the standout fixture against Brentford, but I don't actually know what this Nuno team looks like under West Ham. Sorry, at West Ham. He's had 2 tough fixtures, got 1 result. Obviously, the Arsenal game was the toughest test of the lot. Maybe actually looking at game week 8, understanding what is the standout picks in this West Ham team, and then in game week 9, going for those specific players. So I'm actually happy with the team for game week 8, but with a bench boost in hand, I do need to foresee what my future weeks are going to look like, which we will do in the second half of this video. Now, being the international break, I do want to actually take a bit of a deep dive onto the midfielders. I think defenders, we kind of know the pool of players that we're going for. Goalkeepers are goalkeepers. And forwards right now, with everybody going for Erling Haaland, there's only really one other spot that we could play with. Whereas I think the midfielders are really up for grabs right now. So I think this is where the next few weeks are possibly be won or lost by FPL managers over this specific period. So what we got here, and I filtered it by XGI, which stands for expected goal involvement, and this is based on per 90 minutes over the opening 7 game weeks. So we are looking at midfielders for per 90 minutes for expected goal involvement. And we've also got the fixtures here for the next 6 based on difficulty. So we got Arsenal top, Brighton second, Chelsea third, Everton, West Ham, and then Crystal Palace. I have taken out a few teams, but they're not really ones that we're considering as FPL picks. So when we take a look at the midfielders, the expected goal involvement, top of the tree is Bruno Fernandes, but we have to caveat this by saying penalties, of course, hugely skew these numbers. If you take a look at the far column, NP XGI, which is non-pen expected goal involvement, of course, that takes out the 2 penalties that Bruno Fernandes has. It drops him to 0.38 expected goal involvement per 90 without penalties, which then drops him basically into the middle of this pack, if not at the bottom of it. Now, of course, we can't disregard penalties. That is a huge factor of what makes players such great picks, but it is skewing the numbers that Bruno Fernandes is putting up. If I looked at him at 9 million with no penalties and that underlying numbers, I probably would be inclined to say that he isn't offering great value. When we take a look at Bukayo Saka, 0.69 expected goal involvement, 0.49 when we take penalties out. And I think penalties for Saka is even more of a talking point than that of Bruno Fernandes. I personally think Bruno still remains the Man United penalty taker, but as we said, we don't know whether Saka is actually remaining the Arsenal one. Now, if you said to me right now, who is the better pick between Saka and GYOKERES? I still think Saka is the pick. Midfielder, extra point for a goal and assist. He's on set pieces, guaranteed 90 minutes. Saka is the pick over GYOKERES. But do I think you need to flip-flop between GYOKERES and Saka this week while we still don't have an understanding who the penalty taker is? I think the answer is no. I look at the fixtures coming up for Arsenal, Fulham away and then Palace at home. I think that's 2 fixtures where I'm not expecting Arsenal to win 3 or 4-0. So if you have GYOKERES, I would keep for the next 2 and vice versa. Then in game week 10, Burnley, Sunderland, Spurs, Chelsea. I think that's the time where we can understand who is the player to go for, because if you look halfway down the list, Eze is appearing, 0.49 expected goal involvement, and we know that he is not taking penalties in this team. Andy, 7.6 million. With the injury to Odegaard, that means Eze might actually just continually play in that dual 10 position alongside Rice and Zubimendi, or Rice in the 8 and Eze in the 10. And I think that really improves Eze and Arsenal as a team. And if that is the case, the numbers that Eze has been putting up in his few games that he's played at Arsenal in that position have been fantastic. So I think that's why, whatever you have, you just keep and reassess in game week 10, because Eze could actually be the one. When we're working down the list, Enzo is getting a lot of love right now. However, we just had the news in the international break that their game has been postponed for Wednesday morning, and Chelsea kick off on the 12:30 on Saturday. So if you are buying Enzo, just be cautious. Travelling back from that international game might see a bit of fatigue if he does start for Chelsea. He's really important for Chelsea right now. He probably will play, but I'm not expecting the best version of Enzo in that particular game. And that's why I think buying Enzo this week is actually a bit of a risk. When we look at the fixtures, Forest away is actually really good. I don't mind buying him then. But then Sunderland, Spurs, Wolves, Burnley. You want to make sure you get the right one. If you don't get Enzo for game week 8, I think you could wait until game week 9, knowing you haven't missed the boat on that one. Outside of that, the only other ones I want to cover, Ismail Assar remains a great pick. I still think he's good, but I think you can wait on Palace until game week 10, because Bournemouth and Arsenal, that could go either way in those fixtures. Game week 10 is where you kind of want to get some sort of Palace attacker, and I think that is where I will be looking myself to invest. Otherwise, the bottom 3 here are the ones that I want to stand out. Minter being really impressive, and the fixtures coming up are great. Newcastle at home, Man United, Leeds, Palace, Brentford. If you want to go there, I don't hate it at all. I really don't. His numbers are solid. I expect his minutes to be really good. It's just whether we trust Brighton in the games that aren't big games. I always fancy them to step up against Arsenal, City, Chelsea. But are they going to do the business against Leeds, against Brentford? I haven't seen it historically enough yet for Hertzler and Brighton. So Minter for me is still a watch and brief. Salah is just not doing it. It's just not doing it. I think there will be a time where we go for Liverpool, but I think that's going to be game week 12 onwards. I just can't see a world where Mo Salah is justifying the price. I think everybody that's going Mo Salah is doing it in the hope that he returns. That is it. And then Lucas Paqueta, again, a reason why I maybe want to hold off on West Ham is understand what happens in this Brentford game. If Lucas Paqueta becomes a number 10 and he's just doing the business, incredible. Because he's also getting defensive contributions. But I want to give it 1 week, reassess, knowing that then I could probably invest over that period from game week 9 onwards. So take a look at my game week 8 transfer plans and a bit more long term, because as I said, I do still have my bench boost available, and that is started to hinder me a little bit because I got to use it at some point, and I got to understand when is the best time to actually use it, because things might change. Maybe game week 12, 13, my team looks phenomenal, but the longer we go, the more that I have to keep money in this 15, and I just don't think that is a great strategy. So when I look at game week 8, is this a week where I want to use my bench boost? No. But could I create a team where the team looks good? Absolutely. All I would need to do this week, for example, is get rid of Tarkowski, bring in someone like a Juve of West Ham, which would be absolutely fine. So just giving you an example of how a bench boost team could look really good if I just leaned in to certain things. So Juve in for Tarkowski, fantastic. I get that fixture at home against Brentford. When we look at the rest of the fixtures, who is really the standout games? Not much else. I'm going to be honest with you. Maybe if I wanted to be a bit crazy, I could do GYOKERES to a Jared Bowen. I could do Bruno Fernandes out for another midfielder. I could do Ndiaye out if I wanted to a Paqueta. But really, I think I'm really forcing the team if I make any sort of moves to do a bench boost this week. So I actually think for game week 8, when I look at the fixtures, I'm pretty content keeping my team how it is with 3 free transfers. Yes, a popular move that a lot of people probably in the comment section will suggest is doing something like Bruno Fernandes out to Bukayo Saka, and then GYOKERES out to someone like a Jared Bowen or a Voldemada, and I get a team like this, and then we've understood I've got my players in for the long term and I'm happy with them. That absolutely could happen, and I'm not ruling out those moves at all right now. But I also ask myself, am I doing that just to bring in SAKA and that is it? And that really is the answer. So my current thought process is to go in game week 9 with 4 free transfers. And this is the week where I am actually eyeing up a bench boost. Reason being, I've got double goalkeepers that I'm fine with. The actual fixtures are quite nice. My Leeds players have got West Ham at home, which I'm going to be honest, doesn't look as appealing as what it once was. But also, could I see that just being a possible low-scoring game and Nuno just walking away with a clean sheet and so too Leeds? Hopefully. So I'm happy with my actual team in this week. And Everton at home against Spurs is actually not a disaster. So I could in game week 9, theoretically, just roll out this team and bench boost it, and I'll be more than happy with it. Anderson picking up his defensive contributions. So I think this makes more sense as a bench boost than anything else. And obviously, having 4 free transfers allows me to be really, really flexible. Now, West Ham, as I've spoken about with Nuno, I do want to get a piece of them soon, but is the time to do so in game week 9 against Leeds when I have Leeds players in my respective team? I don't think it is. So I feel like I'm going to avoid West Ham for a couple of weeks and get a real understanding of what that team looks like. But when we look at this week, Chelsea at home against Sunderland, maybe something suddenly emerges where I say to myself, yes, this is the right time for me to make a move. Maybe an Ndai to an Enzo if Palmer's injury persists and Enzo remains such a fantastic option. Also, Liverpool away against Brentford, maybe an opportunity for me to go somewhere if something emerges. What I'm trying to say is this. I think game week 8 looks pretty rubbish for most people. And I think using a bench boost doesn't really fully utilise my team. And using transfers in game week 8 forces it. In game week 9, my team looks absolutely fine without any transfers for a bench boost. So adding on 4 transfers on top of that and 0.8 million in the bank just gives me full flexibility on exactly what I want to do. And if we're in a blessed position where actually I don't need to make a move, we're getting ourselves in game week 10 with 5 free transfers, the bench boost out of the way, way more information, and another reason why maybe selling Everton isn't as necessary as I thought. You know, Tarkowski away against Sunderland could come in, absolutely, and Dye comes in for stack, and then we make our transfers based on that. So all in all, I'm happy with the team. I do think there are issues, but is there enough reason for me to force a move this week, sell GYOKERES to Bowen, sell Bruno Fernandes to SAKA? I don't think there is. I think I'm happy to keep the team, reassessing game week 9 with 4 free transfers. A little bit boring, but sometimes boring is the thing that delivers. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. What would you do with this team and what are your plans? Yes, guys, okay, so that's going to wrap up today's video, looking at my game week 8 transfer plans and, of course, my bench boost strategy. As always, if you did enjoy it, please do consider dropping a like and, of course, hitting that subscribe button. If you have any questions or you just want to chat, let me know in the comment section. I'll be sure to get to them. Have an amazing day. Take care, and I'll see you real soon. Cheers.